This video is about my simple fish quarantine system in my spare room. I also have a turtle here which I was supposed to give away before I moved, but now I'm stuck with him. Anyways, the fish quarantine system is a 55-gallon tank. You can see I have a common firefish in there right now. And then I use two 10-gallon tanks for the tank transfer method. I'm a big fan of the tank transfer method. I used to have an Achilles tank, so I was paranoid about ick. I could say my system was disease-free, and even though I don't have them anymore, I still practice these safe methods. Unfortunately, my display tank is just beyond this wall. It's typically recommended that your quarantine system be 10 feet away from your display tank to ensure there's no possibility of airborne transmission. I couldn't do that. I don't have a basement, so I use the spare room, but it is a separate room, so I'm not too worried about airborne transmission. Some people may say, oh, it'll never happen, but in the past I have gotten ick from a coral, so anything can happen. It's unlikely, but possible. Now, I did things a little bit differently this time, strictly because of my schedule. I've had this firefish now actually 30 days, and he's been treated with prazipro so that he doesn't have any gill flukes or other internal parasites. It's very unlikely he has ick. As you can see, he's pretty clean looking. However, there is the chance that he's developed an immunity to a certain strand. With that being the case, I am going to do the tank transfer method next. Basically, that means he's going to spend 72 hours or less in this tank, then 72 hours in another 10-gallon tank, and I'll repeat the cycle 4 times. Basically, this means that any ick parasites on him will drop off in those 72 hours, and after doing the transfer 4 times, it virtually eliminates any possibility that he's still carrying. You can read up about this on various websites, or if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. Some people say this is stressful and stress causes ick. Well, ick is a parasite. No matter how stressed you get, if you're not exposed to it, you can't just magically get it. Just like I can't magically get a stomach parasite if I'm stressed out. I have to eat some bad meat or something first. So yeah, this fish he's eating, he's healthy. What I'm going to do is remove this big PVC pipe. I then use this 1.5-inch pipe. I put this in. If he gets spooked and goes in, I just put my hand over it and then take the whole pipe out. No net, no stress. All this water is from my disease-free display tank, and that way he doesn't have to get used to different water. I see people dripping their fish for 3-4 hours sometimes. That's just crazy. If you get a fish and he comes in super low salinity, start your tank transfer with a low salinity tank and slowly raise it as you're transferring him. This is a lot less stressful than copper, which I do use for velvet and in severe cases of ick, but if I don't have to use copper, I won't, and there are a lot of fish, particularly angelfish and wrasses, that are very sensitive to copper, so I don't use it if I don't have to. Again, it's unlikely that this fish is carrying disease. You can see he's swimming around eating some leftover food. He looks good. I've had him for 30 days, like I said, but better safe than sorry, so I will do the tank transfer method now. I reuse water from my water changes for the tank transfers. This also ensures the fish is used to the same water it's eventually going to end up in. Of course, salinity may need to be adjusted. I also dose prazipro while the fish is going through the tank transfer. I do this twice to ensure that if there are any eggs that I didn't get in the first dose, they'll be eliminated the second time. Here's the firefish now. He's in his new tank. Of course, he's going to hide. He did flop around in my hand a bit, but he's out of the water for 10 seconds. He's in identical water. And now he will remain here for a little bit less than 72 hours. The important thing to remember when you do the tank transfer method is to make sure everything is clean. So after he's out of this tank, I will dry out this heater, switch the air stone to a new one, rinse off this PVC elbow, and drain the tank and completely dry it out. Once it's completely dry, you can ensure there will be no remaining parasites. So here's the firefish in the new tank. Again, I just plopped them in and there were no issues with the tank transfer. I have a dry PVC elbow that's been cleaned and we'll go in with him now. Here's the firefish after the third transfer. You can see he's fine. He just has one more transfer to go and then it's off to the display tank. I'm about to transfer the fish for the fourth and final time. You may notice this tank is looking a little bit dirtier. That's only because I fed a little bit extra. With one fish, again, you don't really have to worry about ammonia. In 72 hours, you're not going to create any kind of cycle. If there were more fish, I would consider an ammonia alert badge. Here's the other tank. Again, I'm showing it completely dry. It's been sterilized, and by sterilized I mean I just wiped it down and let it completely dry out. You could use bleach or vinegar if you felt it was necessary though. More surprising news, the turtle tank that was here is gone. I actually had that turtle for 14 years, longer than I've kept reef tanks. I finally found someone to take him off my hands, so I have a little bit more room to work in here now. Here's the firefish a few seconds after the fourth and final transfer. I had a bit of trouble catching him, but he's fine. So again, he will stay in here for 72 hours and then he will make his way to the display tank. Again, the tank transfer method is only to prevent ick. It doesn't do any good against velvet or anything else. That's why I use the prazipro for flukes and other internal parasites. Some people will tell you to use some other medications, but this is all I personally use. This video is a little bit low quality as I've been just shooting clips here and there doing the transfers. I'm just using my phone now and I'm just in the spare room. But the point I'm trying to make is to quarantine a fish properly, all you need is a couple of 10-gallon tanks. If you have bigger fish, you need a bigger tank. So again, just to recap, the fish was transferred 4 times. He spent slightly less than 72 hours each time in the tank. The tank was then drained, dried out, and the process was repeated. This only treated for ick. I did also treat with prazipro, which is for internal parasites. In addition to that, the fish was quarantined for 30 days prior to the tank transfer. Normally I would do this second because again, I won't medicate unless there's a reason to medicate. And in those 30 days, if he had, let's say, velvet, he would have shown signs in that time. So here's the firefish, literally 5 seconds after he was placed in the display tank. Probably should have waited a few seconds and dried my hands off better. But as you can see, he's fine. Because he came from the same water, there's no reason to drip him. You might want to double check the salinity and temperature, but as long as you're relatively close, it should be fine. If I had more aggressive fish, I probably would invest in an acclimation box, which I probably should have anyways, but since I have mostly peaceful fish, it's not too much of a concern. The one thing that worked out good for him is today's the day I do water changes and target feed. So right now I have all the flow off. I'm gonna leave it like that for the next 10 or 15 minutes and then turn it on. I guess he just darted into the rock. The tank is a little bit cloudy as again I just did a water change and target fed and all the flow is off. So it's early in the morning. My lights will not come on for another 3+ hours, so this gives him a little bit of time to acclimate before the lights. Because he's been eating well for weeks, it won't really bother me if he hides in the rock for a few days. There's no reason to be concerned about him. Here he is, later in the day. Didn't end up hiding. The other fish haven't given him a hard time yet. And everything's going well. I hope this video has encouraged you to quarantine your fish or refine your quarantine process. If you have any questions, feel free to let me know. Happy reefing!